and that's not good for the industry because that's where most of the bacteria is. That's where the bodily fluids are, and including enzymes and stomach acids and things of that nature. And that's what leads to a very quick breakdown of that creature. Okay. Once that's been gutted like that, probably the next highest bacterial concentration is whatever was left in this cavity, the skin, and also up near the gills and the head. Okay? So again, by keeping this fish as cold as possible, we extend that shelf life. There's this kind of a saying we use in the purchasing realm called the 2-degree rule. And basically what it says is that for every 2 degrees above freezing, we hold this fish, we lose 1 day of shelf life on it. Now this fish is probably just a few days out of the water, maybe even less than that. It's farm raised, probably up on the St. Lawrence River or somewhere in Maine. Basically they're kind of vacuumed or pumped out of these little pens where they're raised. They're immediately shocked in ice water. They cut one gill and hang the fish up and let it bleed out. So that's going to get you 2 days of shelf life right there. 2 additional days. Okay? Then what they're going to do is they're going to eviscerate that fish right away, and they're going to wash it very, very quickly, which is going to get us another couple days of shelf life on it. Some plants that process the fish beyond just eviscerated will also do what they call an ozone wash. Ozone is it's O3, 3 atoms of oxygen together. It's absolutely antibacterial, kills bacteria on contact. It's a little bit of an irritant, and you also don't want to get out into your waterways. So what happens is, generally this will happen in plants where they're kind of landlocked or away from normal runoff. And that basically sanitizes the outside of the fish, giving you probably closer to 4 or 5 days of extended shelf life. Okay? This salmon has not been treated that way. It's just been eviscerated. So when we receive whole fish like this, which is it's much harder to get live, it's much harder to get whole wild caught fish than it is farm raised. Farm raised is easy. They're harvested at the size that they're supposed to be. They're gutted and they're packaged and shipped almost within hours of being harvested. Wild caught salmon is a little different. Wild caught salmon, has to be hunted for. The fishermen have to know where to go. It comes in all different sizes because there's no consistency in like in a pen. You grow them out to the same size, feed them the same way. Everything comes to comes to an age or a size level at about the same time. Wild caught salmon a little bit different. They're eating or they're kind of depending on the natural food supply out there. So water conditions, weather, algae, plankton, all that's going to change how that fish appears when it comes in, or whether you can even get it. Okay? So we use an acronym, GESDS, GEST, when we check in whole fish like this, or eviscerated fish like this. All right? The G stands for gills. Okay? And the gills are the first thing we're going to check. So we open up the gill plate. We got a nice bright red gill in there, not a whole lot of slime on there. It's not off color. We're going to check the other side and see that this one's cut now. This is the one that they cut to bleed the fish out. Okay? Again, that blood out of that fish, again, a couple extra days of shelf life. So we go from the gills, next thing we go to is the eyes. We want to check that the eyes are clear and bulging, that they're not sunken in or wrinkled, and that they're not overly cloudy. The eye is not always the best indicator of quality of a fish because some fish, like a haddock or a codfish, have naturally cloudy eyes because they're very deep, cold water fish, which they don't really need to see too much. All right? So we go from gills to eyes, we go from eyes to skin or the scales. What we're checking out is we're checking out this natural slime coating on the outside of the fish. That's called the butter. This is what the fish, a healthy fish, will have to protect the scales from things in the water. If the fish is held properly, or if the fish is mishandled, that coating will be missing, or it will be starting to dry up and starting to get a little, you get a little patchiness to the skin. And this fish is kind of halfway there. It's got a decent amount of butter left, but not what you would see on a fish directly out of the water. I'm also looking at a parasite on this fish right now. If you look right here, this is a little fluke. It'd be kind of like worms in the codfish. These things fasten to the outside of the fish, and they actually lay their eggs underneath the scales.
So that salmon will end up probably having worms in it at some point.
And then they make their way out to the surface, launch off into, what was that right there? Alright, so there's only one there. Usually you find a lot of them on there, even in farm-raised species. So here's another one. I think that's one I can't see very well. Another one there? Yeah, that's the one. No, it's like a liver fruit kind of thing. So yeah, you commonly see these. A lot of times they'll get behind the fins here, and also sometimes on the inside of the gill plate to fasten themselves. Fish, sushi. Anybody eat sushi? Yeah. Sushi's it's a tough one when you're outside this country. Anyway, inside this country, usually pretty safe, unless you're in kind of the inner city where maybe they forego some of those state and Board of Health guidelines. But all fish use sushi, raw fish anyway. In the United States, it's supposed to be frozen for I don't know, it's like 30 below zero for 17 days, and then the days extend longer as the temperature goes up on the freezing. And what that does is it kills off the parasites. But there's one out there, sushi stomach, they call it. It's anaphylaxis. I don't know if you guys went through that one on your food safety. But, I mean, in the worst cases, you can actually cough up worms. You know, good stuff. So yeah, beware of eating sushi, especially outside the United States. And there's another show on the Discovery Channel. Check it out every once in a while. It's called Monsters Inside of Me.
Oh, yeah.
All right? Yeah, let me tell you, there's some scary stuff out there that you just don't know about, especially when traveling overseas. So there's a lot right here in the States that'll get you too. All right, so we go from gills to eyes to scales or skin. And again, we're looking for that nice natural butter on the outside. We're looking at the scales are still attached and they're not coming out very easily. Then we go to the texture. The texture, basically the musculature of the fish should have rigor. I mean, what you're looking at from the head down to the tail is one extreme long muscle. All right, same thing on the other side. And all the layers of the fibers of the muscle make up the layers of the flakiness of the skin. But you can see when I press on it, it kind of snaps right back into place. Okay, an older fish, you might leave indentations there because it's starting to break down. Well, the elastin is, the collagen is starting to release inside the skin. Protein between those flakes are kind of losing connection, and it just, you're also losing water at the same time because you're dehydrated. The outside of the skin is going to get dry. So we go from gills to eyes to scale, texture, and now we go to the last one, which is the smell. All right, and fresh fish should smell of the sea. It shouldn't smell fishy at all. And in fact, farm-raised salmon, they're actually even wild salmon. Anybody want to smell that? Tell me what you think it smells like?
Nope.
They have very distinct smell. All right, so a little irony or like rusty, or the smell anything like maybe watermelon, or like the green part of the watermelon rind?
Oh, yeah.
Cucumbers maybe, something like that? Yeah. So if you smell that on the salmon, you know you get a pretty decently fresh salmon. It almost gets like, it's almost watermelon. This one's starting to lose it a little bit, but it's still pretty good. It's not fishy at all. Okay? This one's been very well cleaned out. It's just got a couple of clots up in the spine there. You can see where the esophagus was cut cleanly. So this is a well-managed fish so far. All right. So basically, the first thing we'll do, we could cut this fish into steaks just by kind of whacking right through this, trim the fins off. This is what we call a drawn salmon. If we were to take the head off, that would be H and G, or what we call dressed. So from whole, by eviscerating, we make it drawn. By taking the head off of an eviscerated fish, we make it dressed. And then we can either go fillets, which is the side of the fish, that whole long muscle removed from the bone. Does not mean boneless. When you hear the term fillet or fillet, it does not mean boneless. Okay? You put the word boneless on your menu, now you're making an implied warranty or an express warranty that product should not have any bones in it. But if you put fillet, you're safe with that, or fillet. Okay? So we go to either fillets or steaks. Steaks would be the entire cut through the whole body. You get that kind of reminiscent almost horseshoe-shaped kind of, piece of salmon, little bone in the center with the fin bones coming out, and then you have the skin on the outside. Okay? And if you grill that steak nicely, that little bone out of the center will pull right out when the salmon is done properly. Okay? If the salmon is undercooked, the bone won't release. Okay? Your best bet is to use your fish spatula on the grill when dealing with this stuff as well, because it's protein that likes to stick very. All right? So we can either cut steaks, or we can fillet the salmon and then remove the skin. And what we'll do is we'll grill just the fillets, or the pieces of fillets, called a tranche, T-R-A-N-C-H-E. It's the French term for a cut from the fillet, or the fillet. A steak would be a darne, D-A-R-N-E. That's the French term. Darne de saumon, or tranche de saumon. The other one that they use is the goujon. The goujon is a cut off the fillet that's about a thumb's width. A goujon, usually you see that maybe for a smaller lunch portion, something that they're going to poach. That's the G-U-G-E-O-N, goujon, something like that, yeah. Pretty sure they do. So, if you go in the French place, you see those terms on the menu, that's what they're referring to. It's usually on fish, larger fish like this. Okay? Any questions on the fish itself? So we're going to fillet this today, so I can do a quick demo for you. And basically what we're going to do, a lot of fishermen will come right along the backside here and cut right through there. I like to get down behind the gill plate here and recover some of this meat that's up in the head here. Okay? And then what we want to do is we want to turn our knife sideways and start cutting through these little fin bones here. So we're staying on top of the spine, but cutting through the fin bones. I'm going to use my thumb to hold the gut cavity up so I don't cut through it. You can hear all those little fin bones we just cut through. I'm going to choke up a little bit because I don't want to stick around too much. I don't have one on my tip right now. Alright. Right on there. So there's one side. I'm going to put this off to the side now. You have one of those spoons. Just a real quick side note. If you do happen to lose anything on the flesh or on the bone as you're cleaning, nobody says it can't come back. Use a spoon to make a nice little salmon burger out of that, or make your mousseline out of that. All it takes is one little teaspoon. That's $7.99 a pound or $8.99 a pound. We don't use salmon carcasses for stock, so you certainly want to recover some of this meat. Okay? There's meat up in the cheeks. You can actually get some meat out of the cheek. There's a small one here. There's one under the tongue, one on the other side. And I'll show you what we're going to do with the bellies in a little bit too. Okay, so I'm going to lay him back over there. I don't want to touch the meat up. There we go. Okay, I have a roll of paper towel here. Anybody know what I'm going to shoot? Just put it down next to it. Nice. So I just want to clean some of this up. So not too messy here. See, ordinarily in a plant where you clean a fish like this, they got hoses and running water. In the kitchen, we don't have that so much. We're a fish cleaning station. So what you find is, a lot of fish comes into your restaurant here. You'll have it scaled already. So if you scale a fish, one fish in your restaurant scaled, you're going to find scales for like 2 years after that. Because they go everywhere. They fly, they stick to the walls, stick to the ceiling, wherever you go. All right, next step on this fillet is to get up underneath these rib bones and just remove them from the fish. I want to try and stay as close to them as possible without cutting through them. This knife is very sharp. At one point there, I was cutting into the backbone, which I did not want to do. I'm going to pull this away from here until the flesh changes direction. We'll see what I mean in a second here. All right. You see at this point here where the flesh starts angling back the other way? I'm going to cut right along that point there.
And that's going to come off, and this is our salmon belly now. And at this point here, we can remove the skin. Once we get the knife under there enough, you kind of grab onto it. Should be off there. Next here, you use that skin to wrap your salmon mousse or your salmon sardine in garde manger. So you'll scale that fish first, and when the skin comes off, you'll make your salmon mousse or your smoked salmon pieces or whatever, you do your little inlay, and everything will get wrapped up in that skin. So the skin's on the outside, and everything else is in the middle. Hello. Absolutely. If I got it there, it's yours. I think you guys grabbed the bottle from me on Thursday. Maybe. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to locate the pin bones, which all come off that spine there. There's about 26 of them, and we're going to start pulling them out. There's 1, 2, 3. Now you always want to pull them out in the direction that they're pointing, because if you pull them out backwards, you start ripping the plates open. 4, 5. You'll see the little ends when you stick it up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and that's 27, and 28. When you cut up into the head like that, sometimes there's a couple of extra leaves on there. I mean, again, extra leaf. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to cut this into a nice little portion size. And this is what we're going to grill today. We're going to marinate that with some lemon and ginger marinade. Okay? And we'll grill that into a nice little... Now on fish, you always grill the service side first. So that'll be this side, not this side. Alright? You want the guests to see that when they get it on the plate. So you have your nice little crosshatch. You're scoring or marking on that side of the fish. Alright, the key is to get this back under refrigeration as quickly as possible. Keep the quality high on it. There's probably about a 6-ounce portion there. As we get closer to the tail end, we'll have to cut these pieces a little bit wider because it's getting narrower and it's getting thinner this way as well. Let's get that fish back under refrigeration.